La, what's up? Lone Wolf in here, and my brother with it.
What's going on, everybody?
Yeah, here we go, man. We're still on. Anyways, for today's segment, we're gonna talk about the necessity of prequels and sequels. And to be honest, I don't think Robert knows that much about movie sequels, but we're gonna talk about anime sequels and prequels. What do you think?
What I think about them in general.
Yeah, what do you think about them in general and the what are we gonna talk about? I was gonna talk about anime sequels like say Dragon Ball Z, and like later iterations of Dragon Ball, or and we might throw in some movies in there. What do you think?
Uh, I also think we can also like stretch this conversation to also apply to video games too.
Oh
Some video
yeah,
games to get prequels and sequels as
yeah,
well. Yeah.
that actually is true. Yeah. Anyways, well, let's get started. First off, what are our opinions on whether or not sequels and prequels are necessary? Your thoughts?
Um, I don't think they're necessary. It really depends. Some people they like to frame like the original up so that it has to be a sequel. You know, like some movies they'll run for like 2.5 hours, let's say,
Yeah,
but they'll have like an open-ended like ending, and you're just like, oh, is there going to be a sequel?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I actually remember like that. I think the first I think the first time I've ever seen like a sequel being prepared that I don't remember were some of the movies based on video games like Street Fighter, Mario Brothers, and Mortal Kombat. Okay.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't. I think. I mean, do I think they're necessary? As in, is are they needed? Um, No, I don't think everything needs a sequel or a prequel. Um, but if if the story calls for one, if let's say a movie is a little too long, like Lord of the Rings, if you want to watch the whole series in like one go, it would take forever. So I
Yeah.
think at that point it's good to break it up. But with that being said, I guess that's like I've never watched Lord of the Rings, but just guessing, like that's a whole
Yeah.
different can of
Yeah.
worms.
Yeah. One of the movies I can think of that shows that makes question why we need this was the Star Wars series.
With the okay, I know what you mean. That's actually a really big one because there's the original trilogy, but then they came out the prequel trilogy and then
The sequel
the
trilogy.
sequel trilogy.
Yeah, before we get into it, my thoughts on the Star Wars movies. He's all three originals classic. The first prequel, Phantom Menace. Why Attack of the Clones? Better, but not really good. Revenge of the Sith. I'm in the minority of it being a good movie, and also Force Awakens, good. Last Jedi, and I have not seen Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. However, Star Wars is like the movie series that really should really kind of it is like really it shouldn't need a prequel or a sequel, but George Lucas needs the money, and my biggest problem is that I'm okay with the idea of a sequel to Star Wars, just that they change too many stuff. Most notably, how the Force works, because in the original trilogy, the Force is like this spiritual thing. And in the prequel trilogy, however, they kind of retconned that by making it so that the Force came from these small microscopic germ things called metachlorians. It's I have no clue why. What are your thoughts?
Well, in terms of Star Wars, honestly, I've only watched like the prequel, so one
Okay.
and three. So I don't really know, and I didn't watch any of the sequel trilogy, so I don't really know
Yeah.
what goes on with like Star Wars at the very least.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, some people what they like is I guess having more of what they love. So like I think that's one reason why like when the new Star Wars movie comes out, people are like, "Oh my god, new Star Wars."
Yeah.
And like it keeps like a fan base going instead of just it being, lost and like lost in time pretty much. Although you can probably think of like different like little eras within the same universe. That's probably a good way to put it. Like kind of like how like the Star Wars like video games, how like let's say
Yeah.
for instance Knights of the Republic, like
Yeah.
that took place. Was that did that take place before
Way before.
Star Wars movies? Before, right?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I think like 1,000 or 4,000 years ago. I don't remember.
Yeah. Um, and I think that kind of thing is really cool. Like if you can take like if you can build different stories within the same universe and not necessarily have the same characters uh tied to it, that would be I think that's pretty cool. So like Knights of the Old Republic
Yeah.
and games such as those. I think The Apprentice, that's all like is that tied with the Knights of the Old Republic? I don't recall.
You mean Star Wars Unleashed?
Yeah. That's like something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty much telling the story of how the rebellion got together.
Yeah, it's I think stuff like that is pretty cool. So I guess that kind of is a prequel, and then Knights of the Republic is also kind of like a prequel. But they're so far back in like that universe's time that can you really call it a prequel? No, but it's a different story in that universe, and I think stuff like that is pretty cool. And I
Yeah.
think if I were to ask more of something instead of like a prequel or a sequel, let's see more of different stories in that same realm. I
Yeah.
think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. That's a good point. Another thing I might gonna mention because I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of these sort of series. Like I'm talking about video games now. So we're still on talking of video games. There are a lot of video games that have sequels and prequels, whatnot, that shouldn't actually do much. Like yeah, I remember when Cycle 4 came out, Thieves in Time. It actually I like that it continues the story, but there are so many things that the problem was the game just came out a bit too late for the series, to me, anyways. Which is why it did not do so well critical, not really, sales wise.
Yeah, because people forgot about it pretty much.
Yeah, another problem. Oh, to be fair, there are some parts that would actually make sense. Like I had this theory about the fourth game because in the fourth game, clockwork can be seen in certain missions. So I thought, what if you remember much of Sly 3?
No, that's what Honor Among Thieves.
Yeah,
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 I don't really remember too much.
yeah. Honor Among Thieves. There's this character called Penelope. She falls in love with Bentley, and she got
Is it Bentley the Turtle?
yeah. And to be fair, and spoiler alert to anyone who has not played Sly 4, Penelope became one of the villains because something about Bentley's potential being wasted with Sly or something. And and I'm using this as part of my theory about what the series is going towards because clock in the games in the fourth game in certain missions we see Clockwork, he is actually already a robotic owl. So my thoughts were that seeing how Penelope has the time machine, she could have went back in time and get and turn Clockwork into the robotic form that he has as then. Problem is that's only that's only my theory, but it seems how the games didn't do so well well, product wise, it's actually kind of left in the dark what will happen next. Uh,
Yeah, I think that series itself like was more of a cult following than like it being like a mega series. So that's why like it can't like stay too long outside of like everyone's eyes because like that big bubble that people are seeing from afar back when 1, 2, 3 came out, like oh my god, like look at Sly. But like now it's like no one, not many people talked about it. So like when it came out, it was just like at least that's my theory on why it didn't do so
okay,
hot.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's kind of like
uh,
yeah. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to mention like it like only like few big like big fans like series with like huge fans
Yeah,
can continue that kind of wave, like just to compare it to like Marvel versus Capcom, like how like that was such like a huge crossover. So the thing's already like a huge like game to begin with because of the fact that it's a crossover in one of the really big tournament game. um
yeah,
just appeal all over, really just because of the crossover feature. But like
yeah,
but it had been like what 10, 11 years since they saw like Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
yeah,
Yeah, and when that came out, that was huge. I mean, granted, the game didn't last that long, but that was a huge release. Like people were so amped up for it, and I think it was because like of how big the game was back then, and it
yeah.
was still played till that day. But yeah,
Anyways, let's go over to anime now. Most notably, Dragon Ball series. Uh, to get this out of the way, me and Rob over here, we we were like we saw Dragon Ball Z at during its peak, so we only saw Dragon Ball Z before Dragon Ball got its own dub up later on Tsunami, and that was like years ago, man. Uh, when and keep in mind when I first saw Dragon Ball, my thought is that the first Dragon Ball seemed fantasy oriented, while Dragon Ball Z became more of a sci-fi oriented, and I can actually see a lot of stuff. I a lot. Also, I kind of like the original Dragon Ball better for some reasons I'll not get to right here. Maybe I'll do an anime X episode on that. uh, and then there was GT, which was panned beyond all belief, and finally Dragon Ball Super, which was okay for me, but it's not going to surpass like the previous two series he's did. Your thoughts?
so I haven't really watched any Dragon Ball Super. Like I get the gist of like what's going on, but
Mm,
I haven't really watched any of it. But yeah, I watched Dragon Ball Z. I didn't watch too much of Dragon Ball. Um, if we're talking about like sequels and whatnot, I think